Thank you for tuning in to Koppen with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen. We're with comic Arielle Dundas. Arielle Dundas, how the hell are you?
I mean, I'm all very good, all things considered, I guess.
Yes, and there's so many things to consider, but we're just plugging away, being hilarious, because I follow you here on Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter, you are Arielle Dundas, and then on Instagram, you are Arielle Dundas, so it's easy to find you.
Yes, yeah. My parents didn't know it, but they gave me a very search engine optimized name.
Yes, and I love. I wanted to make sure how to pronounce your name, and so you're like, it's kind of like done this, been there, done this, and that's just hilarious.
Yeah.
And so, Let us know where you've been doing comedy. I know you used to live in Amsterdam. You're currently in New York City. Typically, you're stand-up, and you will, of course, resume that when quarantine ends. Or have you been doing kind of Zoom shows, Instagram Live shows, park shows, rooftop shows, diner shows? What have you been up to?
Basically everything except for diner shows. I've been doing...
Couldn't get the Bel Air diner yet, huh?
That's I mean, I'm willing to.
Oh yeah, book me, everybody. Whoever's listening, book me. Right? There has to be a comedy booker listening.
Yeah, of course. Hopefully. So I was really. I know like some people were really like afraid of Zoom shows, but I was afraid of living alone, so I just agreed to do them right away. And you know they're fine. They're not. It's not ideal or anything like that, but they're fine.
And do you kind of use it to test material, or do you think if there's kind of enough people in the audience, you will do your A material still?
I mean, well, so it's weird because I developed some new material about quarantine.
Oh, okay.
It's very good, and I just sort of do that. But I don't know if it's my A material or it's just the material I've been doing. I mean, it's
It's post-pandemic A, because that's the thing that you're going to have to get out first, so that the audience knows that you are fresh and your material is fresh and new, and you're not just coasting on the old stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, what's the deal with bad Wi-Fi in the trains? And they're like, what's the deal with pandemics, Arielle? Why don't you just fucking write your material?
I do have really good material about how nobody talks on the phone. But I think I'm just gonna have to retire because that's how people do now.
I mean, as long as you can kind of say like during a pandemic, they weren't talking on the phone. You still were texting. Where do you get a mask? Where do you get hand sanitizer or toilet paper?
Yeah. And I've started doing outdoor shows maybe a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and they're okay. I mean, there's a reason why we didn't do stand up in the park before, right?
You need people in the dark, pushed together and drunk.
I guess. I was doing an open mic in the park, and this couple of audience members came and joined, and we were like, "Oh, that's exciting! Actual audience members." And then it was really clear that she was nodding on
heroin.
Yeah.
You're thinking first. I thought you meant she was nodding along, but no, you're like different type of nodding, not as cool.
No, I mean nodding along is fine. I mean I prefer a laugher, but a nodder is okay. But and I mean whatever. I think drugs should be decriminalized, but
heroin in the park, right? I love that she was like, "This is a stand-up show. I think this will be good for nodding."
Yeah, and I think her husband or her boyfriend or whatever enjoyed comedy, and that's why they were there. But he was rubbing ice like all over her body and like took off her shirt and just kept her. I was like, what is I'm getting Zoom bombed in person, basically.
Oh gosh, what a fucking story. Yeah, like recently I turned on the whole Netflix has a Most Wanted Criminals, and the first one is a cartel leader, and in setting up the kind of cartel business in Chicago, they showed videos of people nodding off, and it was tragic. Like there was a mother who just fucking like was passed out in a supermarket aisle, and there was a kid there, and then there was two parents both nodding out with a kid in the back seat. They were in a car. And it's just like, that's so fucking tragic. And I can relate, because it was some woman, we were resetting grocery store shelves, and she had a heart attack on me, so she was also lying in the aisle with her shirt off, like she was an 80-year-old woman who was having a heart attack. So I can relate.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like, where do I go from here, Brian? Yeah, so
I don't
so
know.
you were doing park shows and things like that, and it's good to know that they're giving you material. And then while you were in Amsterdam, were you doing stand up there, and kind of what's the
Yes,
scene?
that's where I started doing stand up.
That's where you started.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
and then what was like I Daphne Genschler on, and she was actually calling from Amsterdam at the time, and she
Oh,
mentioned that
really?
maybe Seth Meyers had he kind of came up through a sketch theater there or an improv theater there. So as
Yes.
far as the
Yes,
scene
he
goes, is
did.
that the one place to be?
I mean, not really. I mean, like, if you can get a job there, sure. But most of the people who get a job there are coming from the States.
Okay.
They've started a school now in improv. Again, I'm not currently there, so I don't really know what the scene is like there. I'm assuming it's opening up, but it also like, so the scene is like growing in the Netherlands. Like when I started, you really had to hustle to be able to get like on an open mic once a week, and now it's kind of like you really hustle, you can get on like 2 to 3 shows a week. So it's really growing, but it's not the same as, well, New York before, when you could get up 2 to 3 times a day.
Wow. And is that where you were doing? Were you hustling around on trains to kind of get to a bunch of mics or bar shows?
In New York before
Yeah,
this?
before. Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I was up to. Yeah.
And then kind of, what did you notice? Like with the additional stage time, did you notice that I can try a lot more new stuff now? Because I mean, back in the day, if you only have like 1 mic per week, I would almost think you have to make it count, because you're with other comedians, and you're like, I want to let them know that I'm quality, so that maybe we can put on a show in somebody's house or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like, so it's not a 1-to-1 thing. Like one show in Amsterdam is also like open mics there are basically just bar shows. Okay. They just mean we're not paying the performers, but there's usually
a real
audience.
Oh, good. That helps. So it was almost better than New York.
Yeah. So it's not like a 1-to-1, but like if you're doing, I would get up in New York, say 15 times a week, and like, I mean, it wouldn't be like performing in 3 shows a week in Amsterdam. Like, it wouldn't be like 5 times as much improvement over the 3 times I could get up in Amsterdam. Yeah. But it would be a significantly bigger improvement. Yeah. But yeah, I'd been visiting New York a lot, and I just sort of at the beginning of 2020 was like, I'm gonna commit. I'm just gonna move to New York, and that was not a great decision.
And then the pandemic came. Wow, what awful timing, right? Well, I think a lot of your material, that probably, is one of the reasons why your pandemic material is so good, because it coincided with your move here.
Yeah, maybe.
Wow. And so you're saying, like, if you went on 3 New York shows in a week, you wouldn't have, felt like you're improving much, but going on 15 is still markedly better than going on only 3 in Amsterdam.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I think, yeah. And it's also, I mean, this is not specific to Amsterdam, but like whether you get on shows is political. And I just sort of got kind of tired.
Oh, in Amsterdam, because the gatekeepers, there's a couple gatekeepers, and if you can't get good with them.
There are gatekeepers in New York comedy too, but there are more of them, and you can play them off each other.
Yeah.
Sort of.
You can play them off each other. How does one do that, I wonder?
I mean, I say that like I know I was here for 3 months, and then the scene shut down.
So how do you kind of do that? You're like, well, I was on these shows, so put me on your show.
Well, like, if one booker is mad at you in New York, it doesn't matter very much. If one booker is mad at you in Amsterdam, it can have like huge consequences, I guess.
Yeah. Wow, that fucking sucks. And so, yeah, I think my only audience in Chicago, like my only open mic there, had a big old fucking audience full of drunk people, and they loved everything I did. And then, you get up in New York, and I have, several times I open mics and stuff, but it was shit. Meaning, like, there's nobody there, and they're not paying attention at all because there are other comedians. Like, How do you deal with that coming from Amsterdam, where it was kind of a bar show? Like, I know you have more opportunities, but how did you
Right.
kind of get over that mentally, being like,
I
well, it's just
mean,
good to get up and reps, get reps so that I'm used to saying these words in this order?
right. Yeah, I mean, it like, and it gets hard too, because like, uh, you like, even if you know that nobody's gonna laugh, it still kind of hurts when nobody laughs. And yeah, it is something you get used to. I do remember um, the first time I did an open mic was in New York. I was like visiting for the week, and doing comedy was a thing I always wanted to do. And I thought, oh, I'll get up and I'll do it in New York. And then if I like totally suck, I'm leaving the country on Sunday anyway. It's like, it won't matter. and, and I mean, it didn't go like particularly well, but I mean, well enough that I still want to do it. But I remember the first time I was there was like one of those comedians at the open mic who yells at the audience for being a bad audience member. And you're like, you are also not a good audience member. None of us are audience members. And like, I remember at the time being like, this was probably like the second open mic I'd been to. And I was like, this is the second open mic I've been to, and I already know that the audiences suck. So why is he surprised? Like, he had all this material about how he'd been doing open mics for 4 years, and I was like, well, then why don't you know that audiences at open mics don't laugh?
Yeah, he was trying to impress you with his credentials. Like, you would start laughing if you were like, oh, a 4-year open micer. Wow, your quality.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the steps? I mean, because you were here 3 months, at what point did you graduate? Kind of what unloosened the bottle as far as, and I know you're probably still doing mics at that point, but, how did you get onto a bar show or people's shows? Was it people you interacted with at mics and you had a similar comedy style, or you guys just got along?
Yeah, I mean, I'd been here a couple of times before, and I'd like met people, and like a couple of shows that were bringers as well, which they suck, but at least they're like open with the predatory nature, I guess.
Yeah.
And then in like January or February, I joined like this sort of very informal like writing group.
Okay.
And a bunch of them have bar shows that they put me on or were going to put me on, and then the world shut down.
Yeah, how did you get into that? Was that some sort of Facebook thing that you could just kind of join?
No, I mean, I was just at an open mic, and I knew one guy from one of the other previous times when I had visited, and I was talking to him and his friend, and then I did well at the open mic. Like, it was new material. Like, that's the other thing is, like, at open mics, your newest material will always do the best because they haven't heard it before.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't mean it is the best.
Yeah.
But I was doing new material, and it went really well. And then it was at one of the guys' houses. And then I just went, and there were like probably like 5 or 6 of us. And it sort of turned in, because now everything's gone online. We're very focused on social media content right now, but we'll see, because that's another way to grow an audience in theory for when things open up in 2023 or whenever that's supposed to be. I don't know.
In theory. And then so are you posting the details of these shows at Arielle Dundas on Instagram or Arielle Dundas on Twitter, or both?
Yeah, probably both. Like, if you want show details on Instagram, you need to check my stories. I probably won't post it to the grid. And
why is that? Why? Because you want to see who's looking at it so that maybe you can invite them personally to the show? Because I actually will avoid watching stories, period, in part because I don't want women to think that I'm like stalking them. And this is funny because like all these are professional comedians who I've, who've been on the show or something. And so like if I want to go see their show and their show dates are only in their story, I'm going to miss it.
That's interesting.
What's your feeling when people are like watching your stories? Like dude is watching your story. Is that like, this guy wants to fuck me, or this guy is interested in coming to my show, or this guy is just one of my followers?
I think the way, like, I don't even do this anymore because romance is, but like, I think people look at their stories specifically for their crushes because they like to pretend that the fact that their crush is looking at their story means something. But I don't think anybody, I don't know, like 40 people look at my stories on a regular basis. And I know that it's 40 people because it's the number that I get, but I don't like comb through and like check to see if people are missing it. But the reason why I only post it to stories is because, like, so if I'm gonna sound so gross, but like you should only be posting to your grid like 3 to 5 times a week.
Okay.
And like it should be kind of like, if it's just a post with like maybe a picture they've seen about a show that you have upcoming, that will get less likes than just like a video. I'm also I don't know if you've seen the new Reels feature that's just basically ripping off TikTok, but I've decided that's how I'm going to become famous. So
yes, good. Yeah, I just had on Hallie Haas, and we were trying to figure out what Reels was and how similar from TikTok. Like, had you been on TikTok before, and how does Reels compare? It's probably exactly the same.
I mean, I think I haven't been on TikTok because while I thought it, so I'm a low effort comedian.
And what does that mean? Because comedians are already a pretty low bar for effort.
Yeah.
I'm actually a lower effort than some of the comedians. Explain that. I want to hear that.
I guess I just mean, like, if you want to make like a sketch on YouTube or something and make it look really professional or whatever, that takes like a lot of, like, I want it to be like, even like all online content is harder, requires more time and less talent than performing on stage, because you can do it multiple times. But I wasn't on TikTok. I honestly, because of I have problems with the Chinese government.
Do you really?
Yeah. I mean, not like they're not mad at me.
I thought you were beefing personally. It's like, well, in Amsterdam, I ran into a couple agents. A couple secret agents, a couple spooks. They're beefing with me. They're tracking my every move.
No. I mean, they might be, but no. I mean, they just. It was always like a little bit suspicious to me. I also. I think this might also be a problem with Reels, but like, I don't believe TikTok's numbers.
Yeah, they seem like, robotic.
Yeah, there's like, I don't know if you know this, but Facebook Watch, the like video platform on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like when they first launched, they were increasing the numbers by like a factor of 9 to make people think that more people were watching Facebook Watch than were watching it.
Wow. And are they doing the same thing with Instagram Reels?
Yeah, that's the question. I don't know, because I am getting like a lot more views on Reels and a lot fewer likes.
A lot fewer real engagement. Like, it's almost like you have to wait for the comments to see if there's real engagement. Like, even likes can be manufactured. But I would think that, given all the uncertainty with TikTok, it's probably safer if you're starting now to get into Instagram Reels. And, I looked at you on the internet. I saw that in the past you had a project called Vulva Cupcake. And so I'm interested in what the hell that is, and are you going to resurrect that for Instagram Reels?
So, I mean,
I gotta know.
I mean, I don't know. So the project, it was a one-woman show, a stand-up show that I did at the Edinburgh Fringe in 2017. So I wouldn't, I don't know how I would launch that for Reels exactly, but I have been thinking about maybe putting on a solo show in the park if numbers continue to stay down. That is a thing I'm considering doing, and I would probably keep that title.
Pandemic numbers or audience numbers?
Pandemic number.
Okay. If it keeps going down, I'm thinking about doing a park show. And can you,
Yeah,
like if you've already burnt the material or already retired the material, is it safe to chop it up now and just put it into bite-sized pieces for
yeah.
something like Instagram
That's
Reel?
what I think I'll probably do that. I mean, like, so the specific material, like, there was a story behind the name Vulva Cupcake that was always like, that's a great name for a show, but the
Yeah.
material that like inspired the name was always the weakest part of the material. And if I did the show again, I would just cut that material and just be like, yeah, that's just the name of my stand-up show. You don't need to know why.
That's funny. Yeah, I think I Janelle Draper on it, and I think during their final show before the pandemic, she got gifted with vulva cupcakes. And I thought it was interesting because we made the point that every vulva is different and beautiful. And so the imperfections of frosting would seem to mimic that a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, cut it out of your act. But then I'll wonder, because I had Sarah Tolomash on, and and I was listening to her recent album, and Spotify skipped around because it was randomized, and I didn't hear all the tracks. I thought it was done. It just kind of skipped to the last track. I was like, I'm done. What the hell? I didn't learn what the significance of the title of her album was, and it was Voluptuous Boy. And I think if I had listened to the whole album, and I ultimately did, and she ultimately discussed it, like I'd be like, well, why the fuck was it called that? But if it's an old show, you're not actually doing the show as Vulva Cupcake anymore, then of course you can take all that material and just excise the material. I don't know if it matters what your show is called. You could even invent a new name, right?
Right, yeah.
But again, it's so eye-catching. Like when I saw that, I wanted to discuss it. So you're like, yeah, keep the name. Absolutely. Well, Arielle Dundas, like you're doing all this fucking the Instagram and Zoob shows and things like that, and they could see that all via your Instagram stories, and you will not be creeped out at all if a man tracks your stories to see where you'll be next.
Absolutely not. Come to my show.
Yeah, come to the shows, and I wonder. I'm trying to see this crew of people that you're kind of rounding with. Is this? I'm seeing at your Instagram bio here the F Comedy Club. Was that where you used to do most of your shows?
Yes.
FComedyClub.com.
That link is there because I think you need 10,000 followers to be able to swipe up on a story for a link, and I was doing. And otherwise, you have to do link in bio.
Oh, okay.
So that was just that was a specific show I did called Comedy Gladiators. I hope that's the name.
Yeah, I see it here. Yeah, Ruben Wolf's Comedy Olympics. And I see the recent one. I had Steven Rogers on, and I think I'll have Rebecca Kaplan on today. So it's a lot of big time comics. A lot of big time comics, right? So you were on Ruben Wolf's Comedy Olympics.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're one of the gladiators.
I was the gladiators compete, and then I competed against the winner. I was like the tiebreaker, the challenger.
Yes.
And I lost to Steven Rogers. So.
Well, that's nothing to be ashamed of because he's just a TV credit kind of guy. Him and Andrew Chavon, they're just both funny, but they're also generous guys. Like the fact that they come on a podcast.
No, I'm laughing because when they introduced me as the challenger, Ruben was like, "This is an amateur comedian who doesn't have any TV credits." That was my introduction.
Like that doesn't mean you can't fucking slay with your comedy. Like, I really think somebody who comes up with vulva cupcakes is not the challenger with no TV credits. She's the gladiator, and I'm glad she was discussed as such. And so we'll keep track of all your stuff. Arielle Dundas, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.